Hey, this is Derek D Train He2. Tonight's episode is brought to you by
BrandedBills.com, one of the leaders in today's hat industry. If you want something unique, you'll find it there. We love the concept of their leather patches cut out of the finest leather with your logo branded right on the leather. Feeling patriotic? Check out their USA logos or shop by state, offering logos from all 50 states for your custom headwear. Lots of options to choose from, so check out their stock inventory or create your own lid. BrandedBills.com is a sponsor for our hats here at Blue Line Hockey Club, and we are excited to have some of the best hats around. Choose between fitted hats, snapbacks, flat bills, curved bills, trucker hats, you name it, with all kinds of color combos to help customize your branded bill. Get online and place your order today at BrandedBills.com.
KingTutGraphics.com. Are you looking for a better way to promote your business? Have you ever thought about a new sign, window film, clear coat, or even wrapping your vehicle? Think about it. All the time you spend in your car driving around Raleigh, North Carolina, a vehicle wrap can be working right alongside you. A clear branding strategy can make the difference between your next call or not. If you're in Raleigh, North Carolina, check them out at KingTutGraphics.com. Your satisfaction with their products and service is guaranteed. So go online to KingTutGraphics.com and check them out. Get a free quote and get started with KingTutGraphics.com. 2, 1.
Hey-o! Welcome back to the Blue Line Hockey Club, folks. Another exciting episode 83 tonight. We have all of the usual suspects sitting in with us tonight. We have our producer, Patrick Uncle Lardy Sullivan. Third on staff, our IT guy, Robbie P. Peter. And the all-around sports guru, Derek D. Hockey Club tonight, Mark the Doctor. We got a very special guest with us tonight. We have the president and GM of the Carolina Hurricanes, finalist for GM of the year last year, Don Waddell. How you doing, Don? Yeah, so Don, well, at least you're not in the situation that they are in New Jersey. They're on track right now to have 9 head coaches this year, so I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, we got the guy that's going to lead us to where we want to get to, and we're very satisfied and happy with the performance that Rod's given us.
Yeah.
Hey, Don, why don't you, Don, will you speak to that a little bit? Because all of us are big fans of Rod. We watch his playing career. He was always a gritty player, fun to watch, and I think, that style of play is carried over into his coaching style. Can you talk about a little bit about how, he fits that, your vision for what you want that team to be, and just a little bit into how you view Rod as a coach?
Well, first, Rod's not going to ask a player to do something that he wouldn't do himself, and I think the players respect that. Rod's, everybody knows that Rod is a work. He works out all the time, but it goes beyond that. It's the work he puts in to get his job done. The workouts he does at 6 o'clock in the morning don't help us win games. The work he puts in us the rest of the day and watching games all night is what helps us have success. So the players know that he puts the time in, and he's all into it, and they respond for him. And it's fun to watch because Rod's very humble. He realizes that it's not about him; it's about the players, and it's a great situation to watch when you're in my position.
Yeah, so Don, just a little bit more on that. As a player, you want your captain and your better players on the team to lead by example, and some of the other guys, the younger guys, will follow their lead. And it seems like Rod's work ethic and what he's putting in on his end, he's leading by example. And I'm sure the guys on the team see how hard he works, and he can motivate those guys to perform on the ice. And just a little bit further on that, the culture that creates in the locker room and as a team to want to win and wanting to work hard. How is that culture, after the bunch of jerks last year, with the post game celebrations and all that kind of stuff that came together and led that team into the conference finals last year. What is that culture like in the locker room now?
Well, we started out last year, last summer actually, when we started making changes with our hockey club, knowing that we had to change the culture, and certainly with the hiring of Roddy to take over, that's where it began. And to me, when you change the culture, you need buy-in, and you need buy-in from everybody in the organization, and most importantly, the players. And the players right away, they love the way that Roddy and the organization handled it, and to me, it was seamless. So we went through last year, had some success, lost in the conference finals, came back this year. We talked about all summer about the expectations, how people are going to deal with it, and actually it's gone to another level where this is a great group of guys. They do everything together. It's a fun room to be around, and it all starts with your leadership group of your hockey club and carries right down to everybody in your team. So I think our culture is about the best I've seen it, and we got to keep working at it to not only get better but win more hockey games.
Yeah, Donna, the guys on the podcast, we always talk about, it takes two goalies to go deep into the Stanley Cup playoffs. And you guys have done that in the last year. You got a stellar goalie down in Charlotte, Ned. I don't want to try to pronounce his last name, but we'll just say Ned. So what's his, you got three top goalies here in the NHL, AHL. What's the possibility of Ned coming up and playing a few games this year?
Yeah, a great question, because I think we actually might have four. Forsberg's been pretty good down in Charlotte too, kid that we traded for in the DeHaan trade. So we might have four guys. We talked about it, and we actually, if you back up about 10 days when we lost a few games, we said maybe it's a chance. And then we go in Detroit, back-to-back games. Reimer plays well, gets a shutout. We come back this week. He goes to Tampa Bay and wins a big game for us. So, we just you keep talking about giving opportunity, but the guys keep just doing enough to make us want to stay with them. So, I think both goalies down there eventually are going to get a chance to play games this year. I don't know when that's going to happen, but we got to find out what you have. And like you said, I'm like you. Ned is the goalie. I don't even know. I don't think Ned's got a last name. It's just Ned. So at some point, he's going to come up here, and John Forslund will have his name all wired out and ready to call. But we feel good about the future of our goaltending, and what you're looking for is what you said. You need two goaltenders. You got to have the consistency. So certainly, I think you're going to see one or both those goalies that are playing Charlotte play some games for us in the near future.
Yeah.
So Don, where are you looking as far as improvement that you'd like to see within the team structure so far? I think I read something recently where you want the team to kind of get a little bit more of a killer instinct or something going in, even from period to period. So, where do you see improvement to be made right now?
Yeah, if you look at just the guys we have right now, we had a 4-game road trip. Every game we were up by 2 goals. 2 games we won in overtime. 1 game we won in regulation. The other game we lost. So when you think about that, you got 2-goal leads, and we had a 3-goal lead the other night, and we did our best to try to give that up. But so to have that killer instinct, just to keep your foot on the pedal, and try to eliminate what the other team can do for you, do against you. Just try to finish games off. You can finish games off early if you. It's not always about scoring, but it's how you're playing them. You can't get comfortable with a 2-goal lead in this league and think the other team's not going to show up to play. We know that's not going to be the case. So that's one of the things we talk about. And like always, we're scoring goals. We want to make sure we don't give up as many chances as maybe we did. We relied on our goalies a lot last year, and both goalies played really good. And we believe in our defense, but we got to maybe take some of the pressure off our goaltenders and not make as many, give as many scoring opportunities as we have here starting this year.
Yeah, it's talking about defense. the new age defensemen like your Dougie Hamilton you have in Carolina, the offensive defensemen. How much of that are you looking for when you're looking for a new defenseman or you're looking for a current guy to be more offensive? It seems like that new age defenseman, like you got Makar out in Colorado, and just some of these young guys coming up that can score goals and contribute on the stat sheet. Um, how has that changed your view of looking for defensemen?
Well, we look at it as all five guys on the ice have to have an opportunity to provide offense for us. Some are going to be more limited than others, but you need all five players to engage in the offense. Now, saying that, I think at times the way we're structured right now, we might be a little too offensive minded. If I could trade one offensive minded guy for a defensive minded defenseman, it might be in the best interest of our team. I'm not saying I'm out looking for that, but just
Yeah.
because we are a pretty offensive minded team, and the way Roddy likes to go, he likes to play fast and keep going. It might be nice to have another defensive defenseman back there because really, we have Joel Edmondson, who I would say is a pure stay-at-home type defenseman, but he's probably the only one of our group there that plays that style.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've heard both sides of the story of some GMs wanting to find the Kale McCarrs and the young guys to be more offensive, but it does make sense. These guys have to play defense and stay home and stop the puck and, like you said, give your goalie some help and win those games in the third period, not give up so many chances. To say that as far as being able to go and play a fast-paced game, how important is it in today's NHL to have four lines that are contributors and the fourth line is an actual, back in the day, you might have had two really good lines and then a third line that was okay, and you had some enforcers maybe on the fourth line. Today's game, you need to seem to have four good, solid lines.
Yeah, great point. Absolutely agree, 100%. The days of having the enforcers are gone. If you can have an enforcer, but he's got to be able to play the game and contribute offensively. Tom Wilson in Washington, enforcer, but he contributes. You can't just have a guy that doesn't bring the offensive side on your offensive in your top four lines. So four lines, that fourth line can be more of a hard working, but they got to be able to skate and they got to be able to play against the other team's top lines. Because what happens, you can't always hide them. You're on the road, key face off, all of a sudden icing or whatever, they're out there. They got to be able to play defense and protect your own goal. So I think it's critical to have four lines and four lines that not only can contribute offensively, but more importantly to be able to take care of their own zone if they get a mixed matchup.
Don, I just wanted to touch on you got two of the guys here on the podcast in Raleigh. Um, we've been down to Charlotte a few times, and just with a lot of the fans in the area, during the off season, there's a lot of talk about, all these Charlotte Checker players leaving the organization, some of the top players. Um, you know, that's it's it's tough to do to keep those guys on the team. I was hoping you could elaborate on that, but that's in any sport, right? Baseball, football. If you when you win the Calder Cup and you're hoping to, a lot of fans expect you to keep that whole team together. It's almost impossible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What happens is, and when you win, everybody expects to get paid more money. Now,
Exactly.
a lot a lot of these guys had the right. They're unrestricted free agents, had the right to move on, and smart by them, they sold themselves to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
They're only going to get that crack a few times in their career, especially playing in the American League. So that was part of it for sure. You know, uh, we brought up obviously Marty Nekash. We traded Wah to Vegas for Halla. So we broke up that team a little bit. The young guys we had down there, Fleury was down there most of the year, and he's up with us. So, you know, whenever you win, it's just human nature at that level. You're going to have a lot of changeover. I've won, I think it's my fifth championship at the American League level, and it happens every time because players just feel like they get an opportunity, but they get exposed. Most importantly, they get exposed in the playoffs to all 31 or 30 other NHL teams because when you're in the finals, there's only you're the only game going on. Everybody watches them. They see the good things that you're doing, and so it brings opportunity for these players. So yeah, I know the process. I know how it works, and I don't blame anybody if they feel like they have a better opportunity someplace else to go take advantage of it.
Yeah, and you got a new coach down there too, so even the coach left. So the whole, I mean, not just the players, coaches, assistant coaches, the whole shenanigans leave. So it's tough to do to keep the team together.
Yeah, no, it is. And Mike Lucci did a great job for us down there, and he had an opportunity to go with Pittsburgh. And again, I can't blame these guys. It's just they get very rare. There's you take the math and say it's 31 teams in the American League. That means you're going to win every 31 years. I better take advantage of
Yeah,
this one my year because it's probably not coming around for a long time.
exactly.
No doubt. How's Holla doing?
He's good. He's pretty much pain free as we speak. He's had a great start to the season. As we all know, he went through a major knee surgery last year. MRI proved nothing to do with his knees. He had tendonitis, very, very common after this type of injury. He's been working out here. He's pain free. Going to be skating here soon. He's been a big part of our hockey club so far, and we look forward to getting him back.
No doubt. No doubt.
Don, just go off on a little tangent here. You're the first player that I ever had the chance to speak, or hockey player that I ever had the chance to speak with that, was, you know, associated with the 1980 Winter Olympics. Um,
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about the 1980? We're all from upstate New York, Clarkson, Potsdam, St. Lawrence University area. So we've been to the 1980 rink. We've skated and spent numerous times in Lake Placid. But can you just tell the listeners and all the fans here in Raleigh about the 1980 Winter Olympics and maybe touch on Herb Brooks?
Yeah, no, it was outstanding. I had the 2 years at the Summer Sports Festival in Colorado Springs leading up to the Olympic team, and then I broke my leg at the second second summer tournament in Colorado Springs, and so I started off the year in college, my senior year at Northern Michigan University, and I got the call, which pretty much we knew was going to happen. Herb said, "Get back in shape," and so I joined the team back in November and played whatever it was, 14, 15 games. We made a trip to Europe and then came back. And right after Christmas there, we were playing up in Glens Falls, New York, and that's where I got injured. And from there, the rest was history. So it was a great experience, and I can tell you that if you watch the movie Miracle, which we've all probably watched, I've probably watched it 10 times. 90% of it, 90% of it is right on. I mean, there's some things because it's a movie, of course, we all know that, but it's pretty incredible the things that happen and how the players responded to Herb. And Craig Patrick plays a great role in there, and Craig's a very good friend of mine. And yeah, like I said, remember Dave Christian was a forward, and they moved him back to defense for the Olympics because the whole time leading up to the Olympics, he was playing forward when I was there, and then obviously they felt like they needed another defenseman. They moved Dave Christian back, and he was so stellar and a big part of the success of winning the gold medal. So that's what I say. If I didn't get hurt, the puck might have went the other direction, and we wouldn't be ever talking about this again. So it's an opportunity for that you just never know. So it's funny because those guys were great, and a lot of them I still stay in contact with. And Mike Ruzioni, a week after, or 10 days after they won the gold medal, he called me and he came visit me for a couple of days. I was up in college, and it meant a lot to me. And to this day, you remember those kind of things that you're a part of it. Obviously, you weren't there for the grand finale, but you feel like you're a part of it throughout the whole process.
Wow, it's pretty amazing that to be a part of that. So You're the first one I've ever spoken to, so it's an honor.
Oh, I got lots of stories about Herb at some point. Let soul rest in peace. But there's some great stories about Herb for another show. We could spend 2 shows on that.
Yeah,
Now,
Don. Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
I was just gonna ask, for some, listeners that might not understand, what goes into being the GM of a organization like you are, could you kind of walk us through, a brief synopsis of what a day of yours looks like?
Sure. Well, first of all, the general manager is in charge of anything that has to do with the hockey operations, all the way from hiring the players, trainers, to all the coaches. You know, getting your schedule all set, workout training camp details. And then once all that done, it's like a typical day is, the first thing you do in the morning, we all go through the scoreboard, we look to see who won, who got the points, look at all the highlights. Anyways, that's what I do. Look at all the highlights, and then your mind start racing. Like you see a team lost 4 games in a row. Okay, they're ready to do something. My goal is to try to touch base with the GMs on a pretty regular basis. Today, I think I talked to 7 guys today, just to stay in contact, because they may not be thinking today, but you said that, hey, we're thinking about maybe doing this or that. If you ever get to that point, keep us in mind, and just you try to stay. The worst feeling for me as a GM is when I pick up the paper, or I guess that's ludicrous, picking up a paper these days. But when you read on Twitter something that somebody's been traded, and you didn't know that player is available. Not that you may want that player, but in my business, you like to think you're on top of everything. Where you kind of try to keep track of what's out there and what's going to happen.
Yeah,
that's what I've always, for my whole career, I've always been. I'm a guy that'll spend a lot of time on the phone, and I socialize, but try to get information from other people that might be helpful down the road.
You don't want to have that "what the fuck" moment, huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And it's happened. It's happened. Trust me, it's happened.
How the hell did I miss that? Son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so Don, it seems like probably the toughest job in the organization. I mean, especially once you get to know a player, say he's been in the organization for a while, and then you have to trade him away. It's a business decision, but obviously there's friendships that are made throughout the time with the organization, and it's got to be tough to call a guy and tell him they're moving on. No?
Yeah, 100%. I've traded Arizona. I traded Heatley. I traded Kovalchuk. I traded all the top players we've drafted. And this summer we traded Calvin DeHaan. And I got to tell you, we signed Calvin the year before as a free agent. It might have been my toughest all of my career. How many years I'm old, so it's a long time. I tried to get a hold of him, and he didn't take my call. And then I was at a dinner. Well, he was working out, he said. And so he called me back. He called me back like an hour later, and I was at a dinner appointment. So I stepped out of the restaurant, and I said, Calvin, I'm sorry, but I just traded to Chicago. And he didn't say anything, and I could feel it through the phone, and I felt bad about it. I mean, but you remember, then you start talking. It's always. I said to Calvin, it's good to have somebody that wants you. I've been where I've had to tell players, go find another occupation. Get out of hockey. Nobody wants you. Here, when you're telling a player that, hey, they want you, that's an easier part for my job. It's when you have to tell players that you got to go find another occupation. But with Calvin, he just, he was such a good guy for us. We just felt that it was time we wanted to clear up some money. But going back to what you asked, though, too, you only trade players for the sake of helping your hockey club. You never trade players for personal reasons, whether you like as a GM, whether you like or dislike a player. Because there's lots of players in my career I dislike, but I kept them because they serve purposes. You trade players to make your organization better. You got to take the personal side out of it because we're all people. We all get up the same way in the morning. We all put our shoes on the same way. We all have feelings. I don't ever intend to hurt anybody. You know, so any move we make has got to be for the best interest of the hockey club.
Sure. Don, I know we touched on it earlier about the fourth line getting away from fighting. Do you think eventually that fighting will be gone, or do you think it will always be there, but kind of not as much? I mean, I think last year St. Louis and the Boston Bruins went through the whole NHL playoffs without one fighting major.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I look at it this way. I think fighting, the decreased fighting, is going to continue. But the part that I get a little bit defensive is there's fighting in every sport.
Yeah.
I watched the football game the other day where the guys were fighting, and 2 weeks ago, guys hit them with helmets. And basketball courts, they come off. So we're not the only sport that has fighting. I would say we have the best rules to control fighting because usually, like in basketball, when you have fighting, everybody comes off the bench.
Yeah.
And
they don't know what they're doing.
Major League Baseball, you throw a pitch and it gets too close to somebody, and then the bench is empty. So I get a little defensive. I think fighting is going out of hockey. I think it's going out of. But the way it's going out, I think it's the correct way. It's not being forced out. It's just the nature of the business. We're going back to the fourth line and everything. Skilled players. Occasionally, you're going to have. We're carrying around 5-foot weapons in our hands. You'd rather have guys drop their stick and maybe sell something with their gloves off. But I think fighting is at a decrease. It's only going to get less and less as we continue to grow for a couple of reasons too. Also because of the skilled players, the fourth line, the influx of European players, and face masks, face shields. Within a time, everybody's going to be wearing a face shield. So why am I going to drop my gloves and try to hit somebody in the shield? It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and just kind of off topic here, as far as the salary cap increasing, it's, I guess, supposed to happen pretty soon, I believe. It's not going up as much as I thought it would, but is that going to make your job easier? And also, what's it like dealing with the agents? Are they a pain in the ass, or you kind of know how to deal with them now?
You're being kind when you say pain in the ass. Okay, you're being kind.
You can believe it.
Yeah. First, the salary cap. We would be in a position right now where we'd hope the cap doesn't go up because a whole lot because we have about $7 million this year that's coming off the books next year. We traded for Marlowe, with Toronto, the first round pick. That's a 6.250. That comes off. So we're gonna have cap space. We won't have an issue next year. So if there's less money to be spent in the marketplace, that means our money will go further in the marketplace. If we go out to free agency, we won't compete with as many players or other teams. So that part of the cap. And then the second part of the question was, the agent. The agent. Yeah, I had an agent in Atlanta that probably, with everything going on in the world right now, I got to be careful. But I probably told that he probably wasn't my best friend, and he said, I take that as an insult. I'm going to call your boss. Well, my boss at the time was a guy by the name Stan Castler, who runs the Dodgers, and Stan, every other word was a word that you wouldn't use on a normal around your kids. So this guy made the big mistake of calling my boss, and he gave it to him. So that kind of settled that. But the way I look at it, you get to know the agent. There's some guys. If a guy's value is $1 million, I know if I say to a guy, his value is probably around a million or 950 to a million, the guy's going to come in and say 1,050,000, and we'll set out $1 million. There's another guy, a group of guys. If you think the value's at $1 million, I'll say to him, I'm offering you $3 because I know he's gonna come in at $3 million. Eventually, we're gonna get to the $1 million, but he's gotta feel like he won something. So when he calls his players, he says Don offered you $3. I got you $1 million. Now he looks like, wow, what did he get do? And I'm sitting back here saying, that's what we're gonna pay him all along. So you learn the kind of guys you're negotiating with. As far as some guys, you got to leave yourself a lot of room, and there's a lot of guys in the business you get pretty close to the number pretty quick. They know the value of the player and all that, but there's just some guys that just feel like they just want to tell their client, "Hey, I got you a lot more than they offer."
Don't
Like
get
him
out
look
all
good.
your
It doesn't matter.
secrets.
We pay them all the same anyway, so yeah.
I guess one other question I wanted to ask you before we let you go here is the biggest question mark and for some of the Hurricane fans is Justin Williams rumored to be working out, possibly thinking about playing hockey again.
Yeah, probably that rumor came from me because I said it the other day on TV, and I
Started
kind of
that.
got in trouble for it. So
Oh,
Nice.
I've spread the rumor. Yeah, no, Justin's been working out, skating 3 days a week. Uh, we've talked. He's not there yet, but he's doing things that, from a general manager standpoint, I like because you can't just say, "Okay, I'm going to play," and tomorrow play. If you say I'm going to play, then there's a process of getting ready to play. So he's doing a lot of things right now that would put him in a position that if he did decide, yeah, let's go for it, that it wouldn't be that far off that he could be ready to play. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yes.
fair enough.
Well,
absolutely.
Don, I can tell. I played hockey since I was 4, and I'm ready to play. So,
You ready?
yeah. So, is
Well,
there a tryout or?
Yeah, but he's already
I
been
only
he's
got,
already been told to find another occupation.
well, I only have 800,000 in the cap, so you probably have to take a pay cut to come play for me.
I'll play for free. I'll fill the water bottles.
Don, we appreciate you coming on tonight. Obviously, your team had a game against the Bruins tonight, so we're sure you're busy with that, and we really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to meet with the Blue Liners tonight, and it's been an honor to have you on the show.
No, it's my pleasure, and sorry, I know it took a little while to get to stay together, and if I didn't offend anybody too bad, I'd love to come back at a future date, and we can talk a lot more about hockey, and I'll share a couple of Herb Brooks stories with you.
That'd be great.
Perfect.
Sounds
Maybe
great,
we,
sir.
maybe we get one of the Greenways down in Carolina here eventually.
Make a move.
Yeah, there,
Let's make some
there
moves.
you go.
Make some moves.
Yeah,
Got some cap space.
got it.
All right. Thanks, Don.
All right, thank you guys.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night. All right, boys. Pretty awesome interview with the GM of the Carolina Hurricanes tonight, Don Waddell, sitting in with the Blue Liners. Obviously, honor to have a GM on the show. It's not too often we can pull them away from their busy schedules. I mean, obviously, you heard what he's dealing with on a day-to-day basis to try to keep this team in the win column. And it's like he said, he talked to 7 GMs just today. So very busy guy, and appreciate his time.
Yeah, definitely. It's great to have him on. Rob and I live here in Raleigh, and we've gone to a few games. We're going Saturday to watch the Minnesota Wild. Rob and I had the chance to meet Don. He's very personable. I met Don at the Charlotte Checkers game during the AHL Calder Cup Finals. Saw him sitting up in the bleachers. Me and my friend Matt Telfer went up and talked to him, and I mean most people with that status would just kind of blow you off. He sat right there and talked to us for a while. Great guy. Rob and I met him here in Raleigh at the PNC Arena. Rob's got a picture with his boy, with Don. Great guy. And he's gone from, I think there's a story about him that he was actually, drafted by the LA Kings played one game, played jumped around the minors a little bit, and then ended up working selling porta potties, and eventually uh, a team called him up, and they were short on defensemen, and pulled him up and got him back into the hockey, uh, you know, you know, scene, and now he's the GM of the fucking Carolina Hurricanes. So, just crazy story, great story actually. The Herb Brooks U.S. 1980 U.S. Olympics. Um, this guy's almost done it all, right? And I don't know what he just a
Stanley
great
Cup. He
story.
got a Stanley Cup with the
Stanley
Red
Cup
Wings.
with Detroit. Yeah, we didn't even elaborate on that. He won a Stanley Cup 97, 98 with the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, and I think when once you leave the playing side of hockey, what's the top position to get, right? I mean, you don't get much higher than president and GM of a team unless you're a billionaire and buy your own team. But, that's, quite of an accomplishment, and it's got to be the most stressful job in sports, for any
Yeah.
GM, for any sports team, trying to put a team together that wins. When the team's not winning, people are looking at you to make trades, and then you do make a trade, and the guy doesn't pan out, or if he does, you look like an all-star. So it's just one of those things that you got to take chances, and you got to hope the guy performs. And what a stressful job trying to pull all that together, and have the media on your back and the fans on your back. And when you're winning, things are great, but if you take a turn for the worst, it's got to be terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
and that go.
as a fan though, like as a fan of a team, right? You're living in the moment all the time. You're pissed at the highs and lows of every game, but
Yep.
as a GM, you've got to be like 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead, of the current situation. I mean, they're looking at, different angles for trades and everything that no one's even talking about, thinking about. Even when the team's in a good spot, these guys are looking to make, wheel and deal, which, the public never sees, you know what I mean? So there's a lot that goes into that thing that, I don't know. It's pretty, I think it would be a really neat job, but also, like you say, highly, highly stressful. And as a GM, you're tied, your success is basically tied to the coach, too. I mean, obviously it's talent evaluation and bringing in good players and building a culture, but without a good coach running the ship, I mean, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. A GM will maybe survive, one head coach hiring and firing, or maybe two, before the bullseye will get on them too. So tying yourself to a good coach is key in the league, of any professional league, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, people are gonna hate you, people are gonna love you, and you just got to do what you got to do, right? That's in life general, not even just professional athletes or GM. That's just no matter what you were saying, Hito, people are gonna agree with what you do or disagree, and then you just got to do what you think is right. But and to say the coach too plays an important role with the GM. I don't think there's a better looking at the NHL, I don't think there's a better team that has a better coach than Rob Brendamore. I mean, if I was the GM of a team, Rob Brendamore, maybe Don Sweeney of the Boston Bruins, but those two guys, I mean, Rob Brendamore is a fucking ace. I mean, that's a gold mine. I think personally, he
Players
was
coach.
players coach exactly. I mean, they got him, and now they just got to put the variables in there and let him plug away at them. Rob Brendamore and Don Waddell are going to do good things here in Carolina.
Well, you see with
Yeah.
successful organizations, like if the GM and coach are on the same page, and what the coach is looking for, and the GM feeds in the kind of players that they're looking for and the type of culture that they're looking for, I mean, you're going to have success. And it looks like Don and Rod are, tied at the hip, and they both understand how each other works, how each other operates, and that's a combination for success, no matter what sport you're talking about.
I think so.
Yeah, and for the listeners that didn't know, right before Don came on the show, the Bruins ended up scoring two quick goals to win the game at like a minute 30 left tonight. So that was a rematch, the conference finals. So
Big game.
we had a
Big
little
game.
little laugh about it before he came on, about how whether he was going to show up for the call or not. But it's part of the game, right? And he understands that, and you're going to win some and lose some. And I think what he's trying to do is, get this team to win in the final minutes, in the final part of the third period. It was a 0-0 game and they actually had a goal called back because there was a hole in the side of the net where the puck went through. They got that goal called back, and then they just couldn't hold on for overtime. That would have got them an extra point. So I think that's part of what he's talking about with that team is they need to finish the games off strong and get that point, even if they lose in overtime. Just to drop 2 goals with 2 minutes left is it's tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
got to close
It,
them
it
out.
it's a tough league.
Yep.
Like I think we've had talked about it before in the podcast. You need to get at least 3 goals a game, and you got the top team in the league, Boston Bruins, facing Carolina Hurricanes, 0-0 in the third. I guess I don't know what the over under was on that, but great, great game. But speaking of coaches, we've had 3 firings at the NHL. We can get into NHL talk. It's brought to you by
There it is. Our screen printing company out of Raleigh, North Carolina, is featured on our new T-shirts. Patrick, you want to read that for us? Now you're showing all the listeners on YouTube.
Yeah, it is
You can
Joe's
read, right?
barely. Joe C screen printing. Rob knows a little bit more about it. He's friends with the guy down there, so he can elaborate on that.
Yeah, Robbie went down, picked up some fresh shirts from these guys. They've really hooked us up with some cool gear and became one of our Raleigh sponsors. So, what was that like, Rob? What was that going in and talking to those guys?
Podcast is brought to you by Raleigh's #1 screen printing company in the area, Josebi Screen Printing. Josebi Screen Printing does all of Raleigh's screen printing, embroidery, special ink, even vinyl heat print. You looking for t-shirts for your sporting event, company, or family function? Check out their work at josibiscreenprinting.com. That's JOSIBE screenprinting.com. You can follow on Instagram, like him on Facebook and Twitter. That's Josebi Screen Printing. JOSIBE screenprinting.com.
Print shop. Walk in, they had a print press, bunch of shirts waiting for us. It was nice.
Good quality customer service for the Blue Liners. So we were pretty happy to get some gear from them. So if you're looking for any quality gear, get on our website. We've got our link to their site. You want to get some custom gear made and good quality shirts and all kinds of other stuff if you're looking for gear. So check them out. Another sponsor, the Blue Line Hockey Club. So we're rolling into some hockey news here. Like Pat said, some firings with the coaching staffs. And I think the biggest question mark right now for me is the New Jersey Devils and what the hell they're doing with their coaching staff, right? So they've just fired their interim coach today, and they've placed their assistant coach as the interim head coach now. So they're on coach number 3. We're a quarter of the way through the season. Like I said at the beginning of the show, they're on pace for 9 coaches this year. So, if you're gonna put your assistant coach as the head coach, like what's the next play, right? He's probably not going to be the guy. Who's the fourth coach going to be? Are you going to hire Babcock? Like, who are you going to bring in? But it doesn't seem like they're happy with whatever they've got in the organization. So why are you putting the assistant coach as a head coach? So, and I'd like to see what their thoughts are, how long this guy lasts as a head coach if they keep losing, and who's next. I think they go out and they find a veteran coach. If you want the best, go find the best. There's a lot of shit talking about Babcock and the Me Too movement in the hockey world right now, and a lot of players are bashing the shit out of him. But he's won a lot of games, so do you go out and get a guy like that? You know, they obviously aren't happy with his no names they're putting in the spot.
Yeah, I mean they got the top players. I mean, you look at that roster. Um, they got to get someone in there to mix and match the lines, put the chemistry together. So it had to happen, I guess. I mean, I think they got blown out by the Rangers, both at home. Two penalty or two man down goals. I think that was the last straw that made the firing go. But yeah, I don't know what it is down there. I think we talked here, this summer when we heard about, the first pick, PK Subban going over there, bunch of other players going. I don't know what the call is, and in New Jersey. But if you're going to put the money on the players, you got to put some money out there for a coach and this assistant coach. We'll see what happens with that. Sometimes you can get lucky. The assistant coach will throw some lines together that just out of nowhere, and they can put the puck in the net. So we'll
I
see
mean,
what
I think
happens.
they would be looking for somebody, you know.
eventually though, the players got to fucking play though. You know what I mean? Like they brought in some, some big name signings in the offseason, and at some point, coaching means a lot. But I mean, some of these players got to step up that are, and make some fucking plays and score some goals. So I don't know. I guess you just keep firing people until something clicks. But at
I
some
think
point,
they're minus 34 goal differential. Let's see.
yeah, I don't know. I
But
don't know.
yeah. And then you got Bill
Yeah.
Peters out there in Calgary. He resigned. Um, and not to elaborate too much on this, coaches. We're all old school. I don't even know if I want to get into this, but we're old school players. Um, with somebody to me, Peters kicking someone in the ass. I got in a conversation today at work with somebody that was a hockey guy. So the coaches are elevated, right? They stand on kind of on the bench behind the players. And when something bad happens, a coach is, two, 2, 3 feet higher than you. And to say that he kicked me in the ass, I think all of us here have had a coach kick us in the butt. Is it right? I don't know. But Jesus Christ, come on, guys you know, what the fuck? And then you
Sometimes you
got,
probably deserve it.
yeah, sometimes you deserve it. I think someone was saying that he had a too many men penalty. That's why he kicked him in the ass. He jumped out onto the ice way before he was supposed to and jumped back onto the boards or onto the bench and he kicked him in the ass.
Whatever.
Well, did you deserve it? I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah, this has been a holiday week, so it's a little bit of an off week for the Blue Liners coming in. A lot of holiday stuff going on with family, so we're just going to touch on a few teams this week. I want to touch on the Wild because I've actually been watching quite a bit of that the last month, actually. And I've talked about it a few times how the beginning of the year we joked about their dumpster fire and they just were going to be terrible and they weren't going to do anything. But if you look at the record in November and coming in December, they've actually been on a little bit of a hot streak and one of the hotter teams in the NHL right now. I think out of 10 games, they've had 2 losses and one overtime win. They've beaten some good teams too. They beat Buffalo in Buffalo. They beat Colorado. They smoked Ottawa 7-2. And Jersey's not really a huge win, but then they also had a big win against Dallas. Um, and then they beat Florida tonight. Huge win against Florida, four
huge
to two.
one,
So
huge one.
that's a lot of points they've picked up in the last 3-4 weeks. I think they're better than 500. We were bottom of the barrel in the division just a few weeks ago. So a lot of good things. They're getting points out of the guys that like. If you look at Parisi, I mean, the guy had what 7 goals in 8 games or something like that, and he's been
Yeah.
hot. They've been getting a lot of points from people that haven't contributed. Zuccarello's been coming on. Cunning's been playing well. He had another goal tonight. That Cunning, Greenway, Eck line has been a
The geek
force.
line.
What do they call him?
The geek line.
The
G
geek line?
G for Greenway, EK for Ack, and then K for Cunning.
Yeah, I heard him
Sometimes
saying that. I thought they were saying the D line. I couldn't understand what the hell they were saying, but that line has been great. They start every game. They're basically playing the third line of that team, but they start every game. So and they get
yeah,
put out against the best players on the other team to play some good defense and bang them up in the corners. But they've been creating a lot of opportunities. They've had a goalie. Um, Injury. I don't know what's going on with Dubes. I think he had some family issues or something like that. I don't know if it ever came out what was going on with him. So Stalock's been playing lights out really, and then tonight they played their backup against the Panthers and he pulled out a win. So a lot of good things coming out of Minnesota. I think a surprise for a lot of people that have watched them this year, especially at the beginning of the season. So that's been a big turnaround for them. And I think good things are happening now that some of the key guys have some confidence to score. Donato's had a couple goals late, so he's getting his group back. Fiala's been playing great. So some of these questionable guys are actually putting the puck in the net. Stall.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one way to go, and that was up. From where they were, the bottom of the barrel, what you said. But they're 1 point behind the wild card now in the Western Conference. So, um, making some moves. Last year they did really great on the road, which they've been doing lately. Like you said, Mark beat Buffalo in Buffalo. Um,
Florida.
yeah, in Florida tonight. So they got Tampa tomorrow. If they can pull off a win in Tampa, that's huge. They come here to Raleigh to play the Hurricanes on Saturday. So there's a couple, and and even saying they were up 4 goals on Boston. Boston came back and beat them.
Yeah.
A few games that they had, I think the Rangers, they were up two goals on the Rangers. The Rangers came back and beat them. So and I think they went into overtime. They suck in overtime. I mean,
Yeah.
once they drop the puck and the other team gets the puck, gets that advantage, it's over. Um, I think one of the overtimes they didn't even touch the puck. They just went right down, and I think Torrey Krug went right down the middle and fucking scored. So,
Well,
Yeah.
hey,
they're doing good.
listen, the fire was starting to burn Boudreaux's ass hairs, and he was able to. He's been able to keep a little bit in front of it. So
Yeah, he's breathing a little easier now, and he doesn't breathe well as it is. So, it's poor guy. He's red in the face. So no matter how stressed he is, it's like he's just waiting to fucking pop with a fucking pin. You just pop his face. It's such a bloated mess. But he's I don't know. He hasn't changed up the lines in a month, right? And we've been talking about this on the show for since we started the show, pretty much that every night he changed the lines up, and he hasn't changed them at all, except for the fourth line with their healthy scratch here and there. Felino's back in the lineup, and Rask is sitting out now, but I think that's key. These guys are getting to play with each other every night, and they're getting a little bit of a, like Derek said before, you kind of get a mesh and where your guy's going to be, where he likes the puck. And, I think that's big that these guys are playing with the same guys, like they have the geek line now or whatever it is. Those guys have been together for a month and a half and it hasn't been changed up. So it's all good things happening in Minnesota. So we'll see what happens in the month of December and see if they can keep it going. But like I said, they're pretty much one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now.
Yeah, I mean they're doing great, and I wish I would have put some money on them for win the cup. It was like 500 to 1. But I just wanted to touch on the Boston Bruins. I mean, that team's on fire. I mean, their goal differential plus minus is 36, and I think Washington's up there close too with 34. But I mean, 36 goals. I mean, those boys are on fire, and they're getting firepower from the first to the fourth, and that's what they
Yeah,
need. Tuukka Rask is on fire, um, and you don't count them out either because, like I said, Minnesota was up on them 4-1 going into the third, and or three
they
to one
blew it
going into the third, and they blew it.
big
So
time.
don't count those boys out. Buffalo's looking good. Another team that's looking hot for me is the Islanders. They're really making some headway in the league, and for a team that didn't have much expectations coming into the league. I know they did well last year, with Barry Trotz being the head coach, but Barry Trotz is doing a lot in the Islanders, and I like it. I like the Islanders.
It's like the New York team that nobody wants to talk about. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
You hear a lot about the Rangers, even if they're not doing well. You hear a lot about Buffalo, but just people don't talk about the Islanders. They're like the forgotten,
Yeah,
like ugly stepchild. But
always push them to the side. Yeah.
they're probably one of the best teams in the state. So it's kind of funny how that happens. Just to touch on the Bruins real quick, Charlie Coyle signed a I think a 6-year extension or something like that for 5 point some million a year. So he got paid pretty big. He had a goal tonight. I think I was talking to you guys about how I couldn't believe McAvoy got almost a million less per year in his contract than Charlie did. Um, yeah, he's the next face of that defensive core, right? I mean, how many more years is Chara going to play on that defensive core? I mean, he's got what, 1 year, maybe two,
Maybe
unless
two.
he goes for like the all-time oldest player ever. But you would think McAvoy would have got paid a little more. I just thought that was kind of odd um, to see a guy like Charlie Coyle on the third line get paid more than your second defenseman.
Yeah. Well, it was up in the air. I mean, he got hurt. He's a blue liner. We've had him on here 2 times. Charlie's a good guy. Got injured a little bit. I think he was offered a big contract. Uh, when his rookie season was up in the NHL, he declined it. I think he's just taking a. Did he sign a short year deal? I think a
Bridge
3 or 4
contract, yeah.
bridge contract. So he'll make his money. He knows he will. Once, like you said, once Chara's gone. I mean, they got Grizzlick, they got Torrey Krug, but I think McAvoy's the face of that defense.
And like Derek said, some of these guys take less pay to be on a better team, right? So, he knows if he takes too much, somebody else is going. So, if you want to keep the team together and win that Stanley Cup, sometimes you give up a little cash. He's still making like 4.3 a year. So, I mean, he can buy whatever the fuck he wants, you know. So he's not hurting for cash. It's just, you just see like whose agent did a better job. I think Derek brought that up, who had the better agent in that deal. It looks like, McAvoy might want to hire Charlie Coyle's agent.
They're a lot of these guys too though make a hell of a lot of money. They make more money honestly, like on endorsements and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
who knows? So I mean, I'm sure he's doing all right. And like you say, he's probably weighing the pros and the cons. Maybe I don't know. A lot of these players want to be where they want to be too. So I'm sure Charlie's happy being in Boston.
Sure. All right, who else we want to talk about this week, boys? Obviously, like I said, it's a holiday week, so everybody was kind of doing the family thing. And
Non-hockey news. They had down in the Carolina down there. Ron Rivera, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, was fired today. So,
Was he? That's
yeah,
big news. I didn't know that.
they've been there
yeah,
a
he got
long time.
fired.
I didn't hear that either.
Yeah, so that's big news for you, North Carolinians. So
Yeah.
Well, if they're watching the Devils, they'll put their kicker coach as a head coach.
Yeah. Maybe Ron Rivera can be a head coach of NHL team. They got
you
a
never know.
soccer. They got a soccer coach in Buffalo.
That's right. That's right. Anything can happen.
Yeah, we should put some money on who's the next, like how long till the next coach in New Jersey. The over under is like 4 weeks.
It's kind of crazy in my opinion though, because like Ray Shero is like he's a hell of a GM. I mean, he's got a massive track record of success. So it's just I don't know what's going on there really. It's kind of puzzling, but maybe I don't know. They've obviously got a plan. None of these GMs are running blind. So, I mean, they got to have some kind of plan in their minds. What it is, who the hell knows? But see how it
Yeah.
transpires.
I mean, is Babcock gonna go interview? I mean, obviously if it's an interim head coach, they're not naming him the head coach. Excuse me. So I mean that leaves it open for somebody else to come in.
Well, that's a good conversation. I mean, we're all 4 GMs of random NHL teams. Would you even think about hiring him with all the shit
Yeah, I mean,
going on
I
about him?
don't think I do that at this point. I mean, I think in general, the league itself has gone to like looking for younger coaches. So
Yeah.
if I am the GM of, and I would even do this if I was, a GM in the NFL or whatever. I mean, there's still some really good, proven coaches in the NFL and stuff like that too. But like, if I'm a GM right now, I'm looking in college, at the, who is that young up and coming, coach that, is on,
Greg
on
Carvel
the,
or something like that.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
who's somebody that's on the cutting edge, you know what I mean? That's doing things, outside the box a little bit. And who's, I would be looking for like a program, that wasn't very, here you go talking about Carvel or something. But I mean, you look at a program that wasn't very good, that's being run by some young dude that's turned the corner, that's where I would be looking as a GM. I don't necessarily wouldn't look for the status quo. I would be looking for, somebody that's flying under the radar a little bit, like at a college level myself.
Yeah, I mean the St. Lawrence connection there with Carvel and Chero, and maybe there's a St. Lawrence connection between Mark Morris.
Never
And I
know.
guess
Never
it
know.
couldn't be out of the question. I mean, that'd be huge for the blue line here if we could get some inside scoop on that.
Yeah. And speaking of college hockey, Minnesota State's out on top, number team. Then Cornell, ECAC, a team that's, we know a little bit, just know coming from St. Lawrence University. So we got Minnesota State, Cornell, North Dakota, Denver. Clarkson is another team. So we got in the top five, we got two ECAC teams. So where we're coming from, upstate New York, we got two teams. So Minnesota State, Minnesota teams, North Dakota, that little Midwest college teams are always up there. So we'll continue to watch the preview to Detroit. The NCAA men's finals in Detroit this year at
Little Caesars Arena.
Little Caesars Arena. So,
How about you guys fill us in on the Black Bears versus St. Lawrence University? How was that game? Three of you were at that game. Do you have a few wobbly pops?
yeah, we three of us here, Robbie, Derek, and myself. We're up in Canton, New York. We watched St. Lawrence University men's hockey versus Maine, University of Maine. Maine took both games. It was okay hockey.
I think they tied the second one, huh?
Yeah, they did tie the second. You're right. Um, it was all right hockey, kind of slow. Um, I anticipated a more fast paced, more exciting game. But two of the lower.
I felt the same way, Pat. I felt like it was kind of like sluggish looking hockey, but I'm kind of wondering if that had to do with the venue. St. Lawrence University, as some may know and some don't know, is undergoing like a massive renovation at Appleton Arena. They're not playing in their home rink right now, so they're playing at a local,
SUNY
division,
school.
yeah, SUNY
D3.
school, SUNY Canton D3 hockey program where they only have bleachers on one side of the ice. It wasn't really, the typical D1 hockey environment. So I'm kind of wondering if some of the players had a tough time kind of getting up to the level of how they normally do for a big game. But
St. Lawrence hasn't won there yet this year, so
yeah, so the mojo isn't quite right. But it just Pat's right. I mean, it just kind of seemed kind of like slower pace. It didn't feel
Yeah.
to me. It didn't feel like I was watching D1 hockey, to be honest with you. But
no.
I'm not sure what that was all about.
And Maine is in third place in the Hockey East, which is a powerhouse division. They looked okay. They got their goalie Jeremy Swame was on here on the podcast. He looked
You
stellar.
say Swame, we say Swayman.
Exactly. So I mean, he looked good. So
Exactly.
we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
We
So
did we did see a Arizona Coyote, right?
Yeah, Scout
Out in the stands. Yep, he was there.
came
So
right over and tried to get on our podcast, but we have a lineup
we were busy.
waiting list, motherfucker.
waiting list. Queerbait.
So, it's kind of funny you guys mentioned the venue and how it seemed slower. And if you've ever watched one of the NHL games when they go to one of those Hockey Town USAs and they play an NHL game in like a minor league,
Yeah.
minor hockey arena, it just doesn't look right.
Hockeyville, USA or Hockeyville, Canada. Yeah, they play in
Yeah,
like pine
it doesn't
pit.
seem the same. So I can understand that, and especially like it just dumbs down the game without the atmosphere.
Yeah, and we're not trying to take anything away from SUNY Canton or anything like that because they do. It's a nice facility. It really is. Just
Yeah, for D3,
it's not a D1 facility. So I'm sure St. Lawrence is grateful to be able to use that ice surface. In the situation that they're in. But yeah, it just wasn't this. It's just not the same vibe. I'm sure that had a big part in it.
Yeah, I mean, if it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they'd be playing at the PAF.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that shit? Oh man, holy crap. But anyways, good stuff. College hockey's going on. The NHL's going on. I think we got some golf starting up. Tiger Woods, I heard something about him teeing off this
And
week.
I think they're golfing at the Partridge Knoll somewhere.
Oh yeah, the retirement community.
Yeah. They just cleaned off They brought a Zamboni out to clean up the snow.
My fingers are just starting to defrost from up there. Still a little cold.
It was actually cold here in Florida today. People were thinking it was cold. It was like high of 65. Felt great.
There.
That's perfect weather.
Like 40 in this morning. Yeah, people.
That's tough for Floridians though, right there. You talk
It
about
is.
40s. Oh boy, that's like.
It was
my
50 here. I had a jacket.
this guy that I work with, funny story. He's talking to him today, and I was, told him like in the north they have basements, and He said, well, what do you have a basement for? I said, well, the furnaces down there and stuff like that. He's like, what's a furnace? I said, what? I was like, a fucking heater, man. He's like, you don't have a heater in your. He's like, no. He's like, it only gets cold twice a year. I just thought that was so odd. What's a furnace? Oh my God.
No heater. You just shut your AC off, right? And
Yeah.
put a sweatshirt on, yeah.
Anyways, boys, that was a pretty big podcast tonight with Don Waddell, and it's always exciting to have, like, we've had scouts on, we've had NHL players, Hall of Famers, and you always get a little bit of different perspective when we talk about it. And it's just, for him to talk about the day-to-day stuff with GMs, just cool to hear, and great for the listeners to hear different perspectives of the game and, how all this shit's put together. We watch it on TV, but all the behind the scenes stuff's for him, it's the business. Money, billions of dollars in contracts, he has to deal with, and Joe, president of that. It's more than that. He's been on fire too. Not in the wild game, playing really well is a big part of that. Stay tuned, folks. Scary though. Playing the puck no matter where it is. It's in the corner and the puck's turned over. But that's part of his game. He's known for playing the puck and getting the puck and passing the puck to the defenseman and moving it up the ice. So there's more to his game than just stopping the puck. All right, boys, another great episode. There's 83 of them out there now, so check out all of them on our website, BlueLineHockeyShow.com. You can watch the podcast on YouTube. You can catch all the audio on all your podcast platforms. Anyway, check out Apple, Stitcher, and all the more. Facebook and Twitter for all the updates. Boys. All right, so until next time, stick on the ice. Woo! Keep your head up.
Keep your head up.